Oh boy. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Mark. Is it okay now, Mark? Or if it's still buffering. Hi, GMT Master. Hey, Williams watches. You made it good. Is it okay now? Hello and yes. Thank you, Truth Fears. Oh boy. Hey, Blake Star. Good, good, good. Okay, great. Back in the room. All right, seems better now to me. Well, it sometimes will be. Mr. Gumby, looks and sounded good here. Great, much better. Okay, good. Um, eh, that happens. There's okay, good. All right, well, good. We can have this. Okay. Um, so one of the things that we were talking about, it was, I think I came during recess, but um, so we count this moment as starting time. I don't know. The 30 minutes counter resets, right? Good grief. Okay. All right. What do you guys listen? I know that a lot of you want to go back to binge watching Tiger King, right? Oh my God. So so let's talk about this. First of all, the whole thing with what's left of Basil World, is that still going to be important? Some people said, yeah. I mean, when you really stop and think about it, Rolex is going to be Rolex anyway. Same with Patek Philippe. Hard not to know about anything new that they're up to because they'll tell you. And people go and listen to them. Chanel, nobody cares about except me. What else? Tudor, yeah, that's sort of it's interesting. In fact, Tudor may be one of the most interesting. And Chopard, I don't know. Chopard said, "Well, we're not going to go to Basil World." I used to go to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. They had like 11 miles of exhibitions. You could spend years there, and I ended up making a connection with a Japanese robot company, and I was writing code for a Japanese robot and making the interfaces for them uh, after one of those shows. So I know something can come out of a show like that. And they were in a little bitty booth by themselves, and they were selling their robots, and we got to talking, and they didn't have them connected to a computer at the time. So you never know those kinds of things. So what do you guys think? Hey, Blake, I watched Company with a Model called the Weinstein, a company. I want to watch with a model called the Weinstein. Okay. Okay, you got to go back to work. Sorry. Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, you're out in Washington, Mark. They're still during a work day. Um, All right. My guess is that W and WSHH will just get bigger. This is what I'm thinking too, NS something. And getting bigger, I don't know. One thing I know at those CES shows, and even at the Watch Time show, there's a point where, you sort of, you're looking at all these watches and you go from one to another to another to another, and especially on Friday night when they have free drinks, those are like trying to figure out what you're looking at. But I, I suppose it might be important. And the fact somebody was saying that they went to Basil World show back in 2014 leaving. This it seemed much different, or in wine shows are the only ones I can be bothered to return to these days. Okay, well, that's what that's what Friday night at watch time is. Let's see, SH and W&W provide a model where you can shrink your spend, not like Basil. Okay. Now, that, in other words, what you're saying, in is something that it costs less for the watch companies to go to both. Is that it? Okay. Is it's back? Okay, so it's getting bad again. It's the internet. Uh-oh. Okay. Something there like revolving doors. How do you mean, truth fears? Kind of hate these Kickstarter startups that are another rehash with the same basic course movement. Yeah. The ones that I like, I mean, there's the startups like Ophia. Gee, those are great. And the thing that Ben is doing with Atelier Mizumuma that nobody can say, that was a mistake. I mean, if he's going to have Atelier, he ought to call it Atelier, whatever French is for Ben, or Atelier Gui. That'd be a good one. Okay, the small internet is clogged as millions are working from home. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, the smaller now the now you have truth fears. I'm not sure. There's the second one looks like a non sequitur. The first one, am I missing something? Oh, it's not so bad. Okay, may I suggest a small assignment? A small, like what? Go learn something. Oh, now we've had a uh, we after yesterday's storm, we've had a beautiful day. Gone out and got my 5K in, and everything is working well. Uh, about their survival. Okay, survivor of smaller companies. You know, this is one of the things that I'm sort of wondering about. I've started a number of small companies, and they'll last for a while. We made money, and then we got too busy, and so we quit. That was we either that or they tried to steal a software. Uh, but it was like the whole idea was thinking small. And the guy who has that totally locked in is Roger Smith. He wants to make excellent watches, but he doesn't want to make a lot. I think he's doing like 10 a year, and so each one of them is a his version of perfection. And with only 10 watches, he doesn't need a big staff or anything like that. I think he has some helpers that live on what is it, right? The island of Right. I think that's what it's called. And so there's another kind of thing too. I think a lot of people say, well, if I go into this and if I invest in the molding and everything else you need for a case and some of the things we've been looking at, there's the what's it called? Something of the more you have, the unit price goes down. Forgot what the term is for it, but there's another way to do it is simply say, look, what if I do like what's his name, like Roger Smith? I'll find 5 or 10 really good movements, 10 really good cases, give everybody a really good price on it, and make a little money, as opposed to something, I'm going to take over the watch world. Some people like the other. I don't, because I'm, a watch hobbyist, not the, making a lot of money takes a lot of work. And I'd rather spend my time playing with watches. All right. Those are in both cases. Ophion. Yeah. Ophion, Ophion to me is one of the really best ones that I've seen. because first of all, they're so transparent about everything. They use everything is very good quality. One may say, "Well, what about the movement?" And I don't know enough about it. Teletime movements were I just don't know that much about them, so it's hard to say. But still, I like the way they sort of move things along. Some of these other ones, when you read about, I almost cringe. You can go and see any one of these things, and you'll see the word passion, and you're passionate about our watches. I like to see a guy say, I don't give a rat's ass what you think. I'm making watches that I think are good and they're good quality. And if you don't like them, go jump on a lake. That would be to me. Now there's a guy. Now there's a watch company I want to look at, and some of them do it simply by the way they do things, and others don't. But these copywriters, I think they copy each other's, and they're not very creative. Um, there's a story. This is a great story along those lines. Years ago, back when Silicon Valley was growing and everything that had computer on it made $1 million, um, there was this gal who graduated from Stanford University with a degree in poetry. Now, I can imagine what her parents were thinking, poetry. You could be Emily Dickinson, and I think she died as a pauper. But what she did, so she went to work for an advertising company in Silicon Valley. Well, it didn't take her long to figure out that she was writing all the good copy. Yeah, she had a degree in poetry, so she could really put these words together. So she quit and started her own company. And pretty soon she was doing very good. So she got like some other. It's the same thing with, when you look at these big watch shows, they have to say something or do something that's unique. So for the quarantine watch now hangs on a CAD designer. Speaking of Canaletto, not sure Canaletto the painter would have appreciated. Um, Well, Fahrenheit 451, you can't you're such a pessimist. Like, "What do I wanna do that?" It don't you've gotta have passion. Don't you have any passion for the project? Okay, Roger Smith is based on the Isle of Man, I'm sorry. Yeah, Isle of Man. Okay, yeah, we had a CAD guy, but the thing of it is that before you do a CAD for something, that's pretty much, you know, crossing what is it? Crossing the Rubicon. Hi, Omar. Uh, there are all kinds of other things. Howard? Hi, Howard. Roger Smith is an anomaly because he fabricates his own cases and parts from raw metal. He is much less interdependent on an external supply chain than most producers. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that video. He starts with a rod of gold and it cranks out his. Next thing you know, he's got $100,000 watch that he's made. But there's, Howard taking certain kinds of elements, uh, but going after really high quality elements, but not making a lot of them. Uh, I think that's anybody who goes into the watch business as a get rich quick scheme, I think, got to have their head examined. There's sort of this big monster called luxury goods, and one of the things in luxury goods, I mean, this is like a $1 trillion industry. One of the little things are wind up watches. Okay, and, of course, there are quartz watches of different stripe out there, but, the sort of the subcategory of luxury goods are these very expensive watches that we like. Now, if you have a watchmaker who can do comfortably, let's say his job is making, I don't know, doing servicing. like Parmigiani's was for Sandoz. And then they say, okay, we're going to want you get to make your own watches full time, and we're going to start off with your first movement, which I think may have been the Hebdo Damari, but I'm not positive on that. And that was one of the first ones I know. So is that to what extent where you have clearly people who aren't going to be making their own movements, but trying to find someone who really enjoys making movements, someone like Rolf Lang, uh, Washer, or maybe one of these other ones. If oh God, I tell you, I don't think Lang and Hine could sell life rafts on the Titanic. They, I contacted them, hear nothing about it, and they have this wonderful movement. And the only company that I know that seems to be using it in any extent is this company in Munich whose designs leave a lot to be desired. I mean, a whole lot to be desired. Their best ones are sort of a plain Jane one. But there is an opportunity they don't seem to be aware of. So anyway, we got those are some of the things. Okay, let's see. Uh, I thought appeased was Midwest, not in the state of Washington. Appeased? Who is where? Mark in. Who is what where? Who is where what? I'm trying to make sense out of this. Hi, Tippy. How about RGM watches? Yeah, RGM. Roland Murphy, who is RGM, he has one movement he's made. I did talk to him as long as I could about what he knew about Jacquet 736, and the reason I talked to him about it is that he bought some back in 1999. I think that was a long time ago, and so I started talking to him about what is it, Pierre something Jacquet, and he said, "Oh yeah." And then as soon as we started talking about what happened to him, I sort of wanted to change the subject. And then he comes back and said, "Well, he's been banned from the whole watchmaking industry, but then up the street from where he used to have, which is now called La Joux Perret, that used to be Jacques SA, but in I think what's it called, La Chaux de Fonds, where he had his thing up the street from there is Concepto, and guess who's running Concepto? Jacquet, but it's Jacquet Junior. So I think that what is his name? He's got a really cool name too, but maybe he's helping them out in certain ways we don't know about. I don't know. Okay, sorry that I missed about the Rolf Lang situation. Still waiting on the answer. Yeah, I am, True Junior. It's like he's got so many things going on right now. What I think, and I really like his stuff. He's got there are a whole lot of young watchmakers who really would love to work for him. In other words, saying, look, if somebody wants 1,000 watches of this, I got all these people, and they'll come in and we'll put them together for them. And but there's, I don't know. This one of the guys that he's working with, and they're really cool guys. I like them a lot. He was a finance banker, a Swiss finance banker. So I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what they're doing. By the way, I know a brand who actually made a quick rich scheme very fast called Archetype, only by Facebook ads. They targeted the hippies and simply talk about mechanical watches. Are they still around? Okay, spell check got me. All right. Appleseed, Johnny Appleseed. Okay. Romer watches. Um, Eric has a lot of Romer watches. If you haven't seen Romer watches, you got to go take a look at them. They have some really interesting ideas. One I think was a vertical day date. So like at 6 o'clock, you'd have it is say Saturday the 5th, but it was vertical. they they have a lot of neat things. Romer watches are fun. Valerian Jacquet runs Concepto. There you go, Howard. That's the guy's name. I, you know, is there, I've contacted him a number of times trying to find out. I want to get in touch with his dad. It's not like for anything. I just want to find out about the 736 because Jacquet SA did not make. They were assemblers. They weren't. They'd take an ibos they'd get from different places, and then put together a watch. And the thing of it is that there is nothing in that with a shape movement like the 736. And a lot of people are guessing now. Well, maybe it was a Pazu 7001. I don't know, but it's sort of a fun kind of. It's like pulling a thread on a sweater even though the sweater will fall apart. It's really interesting. I once hired a daughter. You hired a daughter? What, rent her daughter? That okay? So the dad would really do the work. Oh, how interesting! Lee, that's I know exactly what you're talking about. That is so funny. Either that or hire the dad so the daughter can get it right. Okay, they're very much more healthier than most other watch brands. Tippy, is this Concepto or is this who is that Appleseed or Arch Type or whatever their names were? I don't know. I'm asking. They were awesome. Romer popular. Okay. Hi, Angelo. Have you had a private thought to actually make the watch we're working on? Oh, I've had a lot of thoughts about it. I mean, remember I did a drawing. It's not, it's as good as it gets with a dial and the case and the movement. You remember that? Have I had any private thoughts? Yeah, you have one of my biggest concerns about the Rolf Lang is that it's 35 millimeter movement, and his cases are 44 millimeters. Mark had a picture of himself wearing it, and it's a good size movement. Very comfortable though. So it's a funny thing about big movements or big watches. Some of them are big for style. Like back in the 70s, they had those real wide ties. I think they also had them back in the 40s. The ones I like, they were wide and they were short, and they come down to about here. Uh, the Arch type uses cheap, low quality Chinese movements, and they are very, very healthy. Yeah, Tippy, that may be one reason why. I mean, they have a market. They're inexpensive, and I guess they have a design that people like. Uh, what I was thinking of going the other direction is that I don't know. I mean, all of the startups seem to take, either, something a lot less expensive. I don't know if any of them started with Vaucher. There are probably some out there. Oh, well, Atelier Mezzarine or whatever Ben calls his company. He did that, which I think is a great idea. Um, let's see. I don't know though. I just the whole idea that we could have a project to put together uh, a watch with all of the elements of a high quality watch, but not do it for a crazy high price. I think is a fun thing to do to think about anyway. Um, I remember that, but you always said it's imaginary watch. Now I'm asking, what? Mark, uh, oh, all of these different complexities we've been talking about, Mark, is what we've been. I mean, none of these things can come together, I think, without going through a certain process. And the having one, I think each step you find new things that are going on. Is like, for example, contacting Wooten, Lannon, and Kalin, say, "Oh, well, come up with a CAD CAM of what you need," while we're still discussing what we need, and as opposed to saying, "Hey, well, these are and this is what we can find with some companies. These are the sizes we have for cases, and they were designed for an ETA 2982 or 20 something, one of those very common ones, but it doesn't matter, it was designed for that because other ones have that basic same kind of shape or the kinds of things you need in a case for the width of the watch movement and so forth. The I had a 40, I think it was 40 millimeter Leroy, and it had in it a ETA Pazu 7001. Well, here you have this little bitty movement with this long, long stem at the end, but all you see is this really beautiful dial. They had a big fat gold case, a very well designed one, I might add. But inside is sort of like you just put this little bitty movement in there. Now, that is the opposite of what I'd like to see. The rather final, instead of putting some cheap movement, because Leroy had used Vaussure, and that was perfectly fine with me. It's like it's not genius level stuff. I think a lot of people, they see a watch movement and they say, "Holy smoke, that thing is," you know. But when you get into it, you're talking about some very basic parts. You're talking about a barrel, a wheel train, an escapement, a pallet fork, a hairspring. There's and like I said, if you can look at a lot of different ones, and you can see those features keep coming up again and again, and they're in different arrangements and different quality, perhaps, or some other kind of thing in it that gives us innovation. Those are the ones that are important. Now, the thing about that I liked about Rolf Lang's movement, the Cataletto Black, is that he put this really interesting thing in. He says some kind of new type of oscillation. What's it? What's it? What is that? What? How does? How do you have a new type of oscillation? Well, that sounds interesting, but he didn't say any more about it other than that. Uh, and so you have these things. Oh, hey, this guy's doing something really different than you got a Rolex, or you got like a Tudor, or an Omega, or something that just has the same movement that they've been making. The same company has been making for years, and they'll make one little change and call it a revolution. Okay, let's see what Tippy's talking about. Firstly, the only way it's going to work is that the process will be more expensive than a gold watch to make it work. Hmm. Okay. Yes. Yes, exactly. In as something. Where's your sense of adventure? I agree. Starting a little company is a lot of fun. Um, and if you're smart about it, you don't have to lose your shirt. I would rather have a small company that I don't have to, that I can enjoy, than a big one that makes a lot of money. Because once you're making a lot of money, then you get a lot of headaches. I once had this is early on when you had to write everything. I had to write my own database for everything. So I'd enter a sale into a database that I made, and then it would have a label for me to print out. So it was done exactly the way I wanted to, and it was really easy for me to use. Well, nobody else could understand what was going on. And then they'd have these big, you buy a database package or something like what they Excel or some other one of the newer packages they have for doing that same thing. But you know, back in the day, is that you can make a real simple one. I had a friend who just made complex ones just because it was more fun for him. So I think it's the same thing with if how serious and whether you're doing it to have some fun and get something unique out of it that you want, or you're looking at some kind of major business enterprise. I wasn't looking at it as a major business enterprise. That would take up all my time, and I'm having too much fun being retired playing with watches. Now, as something, let's say you go through the process, you have the thing that's nice about it is sort of there's an end to it, and that's when you run out of movements and cases. And so if it did it with, like, for example, we were talking about with Vaucher, 25 movements. Okay, you get 25 movements, 25 cases, 25 dials, 25 sets of hands, 25 bands. Those sell out. You can either go on to the next one or not. There's sort of that idea. Uh, Without the idea of making a huge profit, investing a whole lot of money in marketing, and now online, there's so many ways you can market without spending a lot of money. It's not that difficult. But I think a lot of times people like to think of huge, the same kind of organization that exist for like Microsoft, or for Rolex or for one of these. Look at Rolex; they're really successful. Why don't we do that? So, Rolex is, has all this money behind it, but that takes all the fun out of it. I'd rather work with a single watchmaker like Rolf Lang, who's like really brilliant, and just make a few like that, than seeing how many I could, make and sell. Okay, that's sort of the way I'm looking at it. But the best part about it is you learn a lot about watches. You learn about the production process and everything else. I think the first step that anybody should take in learning about watches is make one. Get a cheap uh, Chinese case and movement, or an ETA movement, or whatever one of those, and just like we did, a couple weeks ago, we put this thing together, and first we took it apart, it's not hard, and put it back together again, not hard. But you learn a lot about it. You learn what's going into it, and so then think, well, let's see, why not do that with really good components? And suddenly, you got a whole different ball game going on. But you know, nothing beyond what you feel like doing. Yeah, and that's something that is the best part of a company is when you sell it. We had a friend of mine and I, when we were flying, we did this book on DUAT flight planning, and we had it as part of a publishing company that I had already started some years ago. Well, what happened? We were spending engineer working out of so, but we were spending all the time. So we finally sold the whole thing to a aviation book company. It's like a yacht. The best days of getting a yacht's the day you get it and the day you sell it, and that's probably what NS said. NS something said about a company. Best thing you can do is sell it when you're finished with it. Uh, what we did, this other robotics company that I started making components for Japanese robots, was they really unbelievable. we put some code into the code we had to sort of not let anybody use it without seeing that we made it. And so they call us up and they say, "We want to take that out of there." We said, "Why? No one can see it. I mean, and we want it there because we don't want anybody to rip off the software." Well, I guess they finally figured out to break it, but we had sort of like we did these robots and we did these interfaces and we got paid for everything and then we quit doing it, and it was great. It was, it was one of those things like, and as something said, yeah, you finish with it. So what will be the marketing tagline in this company watch? I don't know. That's like, don't be a sucker and buy a Patek Philippe. How about that? Would that be one? You know, it's sort of don't be a rope-a-dope watch company. I don't know. You guys can figure that out. Uh, Clyde, we're part of Tiger King defense team. Is Clyde here? Where's Clyde? Ty, Clyde is part of the Tiger King. Uh, the problem that you've got to make a watch for Swatch because they don't sell anybody outside of the Swatch group. Okay, let's see. Geezer's back. Hey, Dominic. See, I want to work with ETA if I want to make my own watch movement. Oh, if you're going to make your own watch movement, that's another story. That's a whole different thing. I wouldn't even come close to that. The power of ETA movements. They are sturdy and reliable. Yes, they are. Okay, so who are we going to sell this watch company to? Swatch, LVM? No. Here's the thing about it. You have to sell to anybody. You know, it, the the idea is to get all of the pieces together, make a prototype, and then if the prototype, if you like it, what if you make it and it's really, just ugly and nobody likes it? And I said, well, that was a big mistake. Um, then you don't have to make any more, and somebody gets to keep sell the prototype. I tell you, a prototype. One of the most fun prototypes ever made was the Icon watch from Moser. That was sort of a spoof on all these other watches. My God, I'd love to have that watch. But okay, is a genius in looking at in the future. Um, okay, Tippy, if you say so. What do they have? Let me see. LVMH has Zenith. They have Bulgari. They have who are some of the other ones in LVMH, Tippy? Okay, let's see. We need a dodgy lawyer. Oh, we got dodgy lawyers. You swing a dead cat and you hit 10 of them. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me apologize to any dodgy lawyers who are here today. Let's see. We need a dodgy. Okay. Hey, Tim, buy a watch. All right. I'm still working on my company. Haven't even thought about selling it. I love my work and that I created growing plants and acquiring aquariums. All right. Well, that's cool. It's too late. Don't fight it. We're selling this company as soon as the first model sells out. Okay. All right. That would be even better. Have one of the rarest watches in the world. Okay. Let's make our own watch and then check with it. There you go. We'll sell it to the government as we'll qualify for the CARES Act 12 next year. And then we're out. Okay. Tag Heuer, Hublot, and Chayumet. All right. They are owned by Zenith. Well, actually, Tippy, they're owned by LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Maurice Hennessy, I think. Moret Hennessy. I believe that. I don't think it's the other way around. Okay, then we can start another company to make berets. Yeah, I don't have my beret today. I put on my. This is we're having a wonderful spring day with all these blossoms and hay fever and everything else blowing around. You know, we had this horrendous storm yesterday, cleaned everything out, just everything. And especially being in sort of a country place, man, we went for a walk today and just the air was just wonderful. There were hardly any cars. Uh, Great. LVMH, right. Monette Hennessy, you're right. That's right, Tippy. Okay, yes, we can start a fashion empire. Yeah, right. With berets. Let me see. We'll have a watch and a beret style. Um, Moet Hennessy. Yeah, that's right, True Junior. Then clown shoes. That would be, you'd have everything. Okay. Well, it looks like we've gone through this second half hour. Sorry about the whole thing acting up, but that's life. Life in the pandemic. I was wondering, years from now when we look back on this, just look at 2020 was like the year of the pandemic. And thank God it's 2020 because it's really easy to remember, as opposed to, like 20. Hey, Crappy, we're just leaving. It was nothing. Your coming here, your appearance did not cause this, but we are in. We'll keep doing this until this stupid pandemic is over.